I found the note in her suitcase. One line, in her mother's handwriting. Don't overthink it. Just follow your heart. You deserve fireworks. That trip was supposed to be a mother-daughter getaway. But that note? It didn't sound like a weekend. It sounded like permission. And that's when I realized I wasn't just losing Lena. I was being voted out by her mother. Now let me back up. My name's Thomas. I'm 32, work in risk management, and I proposed with a ring I'd been saving for since our second year together. Lena said yes before I even finished my sentence, tackled me on the hiking trail with tears in her eyes and both hands clutching the box like it might disappear. I thought that moment would anchor us. Turns out, it was just a buoy in deeper waters I hadn't seen coming. Lena and I had one of those whirlwind starts that slow into something steady and warm. She was full of life, spontaneous, artistic, the kind of woman who brought home new mugs because she liked the shape of them. I was the opposite. Calculated. Considerate. I asked before rearranging the couch. I made spreadsheets for vacation, but I never made her feel caged, or so I thought. Her mom, Linda, was polite in that chilly, subtle way some people wield like a knife. She'd compliment my job security while wondering aloud if Lena ever missed dating someone more creative. She'd joke that I was a rock, and then add that even rocks can be boring if you stare at them too long. I never rose to it, never made it a thing, because Lena loved me, and that, I believed, was enough. A few months before the wedding, Linda started dropping in more often, helping with dress fittings, menu tastings, mother-daughter time, she called it. I didn't mind. They were close, and I respected that. But there were little moments, hushed conversations that stopped when I walked in, texts Lena would read, and then excuse herself from the room. I asked once, "Everything okay with your mom?" She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "She's just being her," she said. "You know how she is." Then came the girls' weekend. Just a few weeks before the wedding, Linda surprised Lena with a weekend getaway. "A little breath before the big plunge," she said, laughing. "My treat. Just us girls. We'll do spa stuff, sip cocktails, talk about marriage and womanhood." I thought it was sweet. I thought it was normal. They flew to San Francisco. Lena texted when they landed, said they were heading to the hotel, and she'd call that night. She didn't. The next day I got a selfie, them on a patio, wine glasses raised, the bay in the background. I smiled, saved the photo, and told her I loved her. She replied, "Miss you." That was it. No call. No follow-up. Just silence for the next 24 hours. By day 3, something inside me started to churn. Not panic, not paranoia, just a quiet throb of unease. I told myself I was being silly, that she deserved to be unplugged. That trust meant not turning every unanswered message into a red flag. But when she came home, something had shifted. Lena hugged me like someone playing a role in a play they didn't want to be in anymore. She was warm, but distant. Polite, but distracted. She said the trip was great and really clarifying. I asked what that meant. She said nothing, just kissed my cheek and said she was tired. I let it go, until I did the laundry. I wasn't snooping. I swear on everything I am, I wasn't. I was pulling her things from the suitcase to toss them in the wash when the note fluttered out, barely folded, nestled beneath a scarf she'd packed but never worn. Just one line, in that unmistakable cursive. "Don't overthink it. Just follow your heart. You deserve fireworks." I stared at it like it might combust in my hand. Fireworks. That word sat heavy, because when Lena and I had first started dating, she'd said something to me one night, curled up on the couch. We were watching some rom-com, and the couple kissed under a sky full of literal fireworks, and she said, "That stuff's sweet, but I'd rather have steady than sparks. Sparks fizzle. Steady stays." I believed her. God, I believed her. But maybe someone changed her mind. I didn't confront her right then. I wanted to. God, I did. But something in me pulled back, not out of fear, exactly. More like self-preservation. I needed to be sure, not just of what I'd seen, but of what it meant. I didn't want to throw accusations and watch her retreat behind half-truths or rehearsed apologies. I needed clarity, a full picture. So instead, I folded the note carefully and tucked it into the back of my wallet. And that night, I started paying attention in a way I hadn't before. Because sometimes love isn't lost in an explosion. Sometimes it's handed over, one subtle choice at a time. And I had a sick feeling that someone had just lit the match. I saw the hotel charge first. Lena's credit card was linked to mine, joint account for wedding expenses. I wasn't looking to snoop, just logging in to check if the florist deposit had cleared. But right there in the transaction feed was a charge labeled the Halcyon in Sausalito, California. Not the name of the hotel she'd told me they were staying in. Not even close. And definitely not in the city. Some vendors label their transactions vaguely. This one didn't. It was specific, almost like it wanted to be found. And not the sort of place you'd stay with your mother, unless your mother had suddenly developed a fondness for couples massages and romantic weekend packages. So I Googled it. The Halcyon was in Sausalito, across the bay, quiet, quaint, popular with honeymooners. The website had soft piano music, slow-motion videos of ocean views, and phrases like a place to reconnect and an escape built for two. I stared at the screen, heart in my throat, and heard the echo of that note again. You deserve fireworks. I closed the laptop. Didn't say anything that night. But the next day, I casually asked, "Hey, was the hotel in the city or over the bridge?" She didn't look up from her tea. "City." I nodded. Said nothing more. That lie was small, but it was heavy, because it wasn't about the hotel. It was about the gap that had opened between who we were and what she was becoming. The next clue came the following week. She was in the shower, and her phone lit up on the bathroom counter. I wasn't trying to read it, but the message preview glowed right there on the lock screen. "So, have you made your decision?" Unknown number. I stared at it until it disappeared. Decision? I waited until she fell asleep that night, her back turned to me, breathing slow and shallow like someone practicing being somewhere else. I picked up her phone, hands shaking. No password. I opened the Messages app. The number wasn't saved, but the thread ran deep, mostly one-sided. Him. Short messages. Soft pressure. Can't stop thinking about the weekend. You felt like home, even for a second. I don't know if this changes anything, but I had to see you. Had to know if we were a closed book or just a lost chapter. Have you made your decision? No photos. No, I love you. But no mother on earth would text her daughter like that. And no man would write like this unless he thought there was a door left slightly open. No photos. No, I love you. But no mother on earth would text her daughter like that. I scrolled back, my stomach twisting tighter with each line. Somewhere around the beginning, I found the message that stopped me cold. "Linda said you needed clarity. I'm glad she pushed you." There it was. Proof. It wasn't just Lena who'd gone looking for something. It was Linda who handed her the compass and said, "Go see if the map still fits." This wasn't some chance encounter. This was orchestrated. Coordinated. Approved. The next morning, I laid her phone on the kitchen counter. Screen face up. That thread's still open. She saw it when she walked in. Her body stiffened. I didn't say anything. She picked it up, skimmed the messages, and exhaled like a diver coming up from too deep. "I was going to delete them," she said quietly. "But you didn't," I replied. "Why?" "I don't know," she said. "Maybe part of me wanted to get caught." I nodded. "And the hotel?" She didn't answer. I waited, because I wanted her to say it, to own it. Instead, she said something worse. "I didn't sleep with him, if that's what you're asking." I didn't flinch. Not because I believed her, but because I'd already stopped measuring the betrayal in nights. I was measuring it in choices, in silences, in the way she looked at me now, not with guilt, but with distance. She poured herself coffee. I asked, "Was this your idea, or your mom's?" That was the only time she looked me in the eyes. She didn't force me, but she asked questions I hadn't let myself ask. I leaned back, arms crossed. "Like what?" She swallowed. "Like whether I was marrying you because I loved you, or because you were safe." That word again. Safe. I used to think it meant dependable, trustworthy. The kind of man who built a life, not just a weekend. But in her mouth, it sounded like a verdict. "You went across the country," I said slowly, "to find out if you still wanted to come home." She didn't deny it. Just said, I needed to know if I was walking towards something, or running from what I thought I was missing. "And what did you decide?" She looked down at her hands. "I haven't yet." I nodded. And then I stood. Not angrily. Not dramatically. Just stood. Because if she hadn't decided whether she wanted me, I sure as hell wasn't going to spend one more day begging to be chosen. I picked up my keys. She whispered, "Where are you going?" I paused at the door. "To remember who I was before I let you, and your mother convinced me that love has to come with fireworks." And I walked out. I didn't go home for 3 days. I stayed at a motel off the interstate, the kind with flickering lights and a breakfast you don't touch. Not because I couldn't afford better, but because I needed the ugliness. I needed to sit with it, feel it. No soft corners. No comfort. Just me and the knowledge that the woman I loved wasn't sure if she loved me enough to stop looking backward. And worse? Her mother helped her pack. I didn't hear from Lena the first day. The second, she texted, "I understand. I'm here when you're ready." The kind of message you send someone you hurt, but not enough to follow after. But on the third day, I got a call. From Linda. I stared at the screen like it was some kind of prank. The same woman who once told me I made Lena comfortable in a way that worried her was now calling me like we were old friends. I let it go to voicemail. She left one. "Thomas, this is Linda. I know this is awkward, but I think we should talk." Woman to man. About Lena. About the future. "I'll be at that little cafe you like, the one with the cinnamon scones, tomorrow at 10. If you don't come, I'll understand. But I hope you do." And that's the thing about heartbreak, it leaves you curious. So I showed up. She was already there. Perfect posture, pearls, a pressed blue blouse like she'd just stepped out of a catalog for Mother of the Bride, Judgment Edition. "Thomas," she said, like we were neighbors meeting over hedges. "Thank you for coming." I didn't sit right away. "You helped her meet him?" She didn't flinch. I encouraged her to listen to herself. "That's not a crime." I sat. She sipped her tea chamomile, of course. Lena has always followed the current. I didn't want her to wake up one day in a beautiful house with a safe man and wonder what might have been. I looked at her, hard. "That safe man treated your daughter like a queen. I never lied, never strayed, never raised my voice. But somehow that wasn't enough." She folded her hands. "You don't understand, Lena. She needs friction, fire. You're lovely, Thomas. But lovely doesn't set hearts on fire." I felt something inside me crack, not from anger, but from clarity. This woman had never wanted me to be her son-in-law. She wanted me to be Lena's face. "I used to think you just didn't like me," I said. "But now I realize you wanted her to marry someone who reminded you of you." Her eyes narrowed. "Excuse me. Someone reckless. Someone unpredictable. Someone who makes promises and breaks them when it suits the drama of the moment." Her jaw twitched. And for the first time since I met her, Linda looked human. Not composed. Not cruel. Just suddenly, deeply tired. "She told you," she said. "She told me everything." Linda exhaled. I hoped it would give her clarity, that seeing him would burn out the what-if quietly. I didn't think she'd actually cross a line. Not really. But maybe part of me wondered what would happen if she did. I laughed. "You don't burn out feelings. You feed them, or you starve them. And you fed hers for someone else." She went quiet. So I stood. I didn't come here to make peace. I came here to say this. If you ever want to see your daughter happy, stay out of her relationships. Because love doesn't need gasoline. It needs water. And right now, she's drowning in the mat you handed her. I left her there. Didn't pay for her tea. Didn't look back. Back at the motel, I found a package at the front desk. No return address. Inside was a single photograph, the one from the rooftop, the one with Lena and her ex. It was folded down the center, torn slightly. On the back, in Lena's handwriting. He wasn't the answer. But I had to ask the question to finally understand. No note. No apology. Just that. I stared at it for a long time. Because that was the first honest thing she'd done in weeks. And I couldn't stop wondering, was it too little, too late? I came back to our apartment on a Tuesday. Not because I was ready to forgive. Not because I wanted to pretend it hadn't happened. But because I needed to see if the life we'd built together, the routines, the quiet moments, the pieces of us that had seemed so solid, could survive the weight of everything that now sat on top of them. Lena was in the kitchen. She didn't hear me come in. She was stirring something on the stove, wearing my college sweatshirt, the one she always stole when she was cold. She looked small in it. Smaller than I remembered. When she turned around and saw me, she didn't run to hug me. Didn't burst into tears. Just froze, wooden spoon still in her hand. "You're back," she said. "Just to talk," I replied. And I meant it. She nodded, set the spoon down gently. Then she reached for something on the table behind her. Another envelope. But this time, it wasn't filled with lies. It was her journal. Or at least, a few ripped-out pages of it. "I know this is weird," she said, her voice careful. "But I need you to read something. Before I say anything else." I sat. Took it. The handwriting was hers. Familiar. Loopy. Rushed in places, like she was writing through emotion instead of around it. The first page started with a date. The day they'd flown to San Francisco. I don't know why I said yes to this trip. Mom says I'm stalling. Says Thomas is lovely, but maybe too lovely. I hate that I can't explain why that hurt. I flipped the page. Saw him today. The ex-Marcus. He still makes me feel young and chaotic and a little bit lost. It's intoxicating. But I also felt this strange emptiness afterward. Like being full of cotton candy, sweet, but no weight. No anchor. Next page. We kissed. It didn't feel right. It felt like reaching for a coat that doesn't fit anymore. I wanted it to feel like fire, but it just felt adolescent. Then the last line. Bold. Ink pressed hard into the paper. Thomas is my anchor. I just needed to drift once to understand what I already had. I set the pages down. She watched me. I never meant to cross the line, she said. But I know I did. Not just with him, but with you. With your trust. I nodded slowly. Why didn't you just tell me? Because I was ashamed. And because I didn't want to watch your face change when you looked at me. That stopped me. Because, truth be told, it already had. Love makes you memorize someone's expressions. Their default look when they're cooking, reading, singing to the dog. And when betrayal slides between you, you notice the subtle shifts. The way your gaze carries caution now. The way your smile pauses before it lands. I've been looking at her through that hesitation for weeks. And yet, part of me still wanted to look anyway. I thought I was protecting something by hiding it, she said. But I see now I was just delaying the damage. I leaned back. Exhaled. It's not about the kiss, I said. It's not even about the ex. It's about the story you told me. The story your mom helped you sell. And the version of us you let go of, just to see if something else would shine brighter. She nodded. I get that. Then she looked up. But Thomas, I choose you. Now. Fully. Without hesitation. And not because you're safe, but because you're the only thing that's ever made me feel real. I didn't speak right away. Because that's the thing about a wound like this. Even after the bleeding stops, the skin remembers. I looked at her. Really looked. And in that moment, I wasn't deciding whether I loved her. I knew I did. I always had. What I was deciding was whether love alone was enough. Do you still talk to your mom about us? I asked quietly. She shook her head. Not anymore. She thinks I made a mistake choosing you again. That hurt. But it also confirmed something I needed to know. She can't be in our relationship, I said. Not anymore. Not even in the background. Lena nodded. I told her that last week. We haven't spoken since. That surprised me. And it also didn't. Because love makes you brave in strange ways. I stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the street we used to walk every evening with takeout boxes and soft arguments about where to eat next time. I miss that version of us. I don't know if I can come back to this yet, I said. I understand. But I'm not walking away either. She exhaled. And for the first time in a long time, I saw her eyes fill with hope, not the desperate kind. The quiet, grounded kind. I'm here, she said. However long it takes. I turned back to her. And for the first time, it didn't feel like I was standing on a cliff's edge. It felt like I was standing at the start of a road, bumpy, uneven, but real. 2 weeks passed. Carefully, quietly. Lena and I didn't jump back into our routine. We circled it, stepped around it, like returning to a house after a fire, testing each floorboard, waiting to see which one still held. Some nights she stayed at her sister's. Other nights we shared dinner in silence. Not cold silence, just the kind where words aren't ready yet. And then Linda showed up at my office. Not a phone call, not an email. She came in person, pearls and posture, just like always. Said she was there for a quick word. I could have walked away. I should have. But I was tired of unfinished business. So I led her to the break room. She didn't sit. She didn't smile. I heard you're back in touch, she said flatly. I nodded. It's not really your concern. Her lips twitched. She's my daughter. That makes it my concern. No, I said. That makes it your relationship. With her. What she and I have is separate. And from here on out, you stay out of it. She didn't like that. You can see it in the way her chin lifted, like she'd been insulted by someone beneath her. She's not thinking clearly, she said. She's chasing guilt. And you're letting her. I stepped closer. Not threatening, just so she could hear the steel in my voice. Let me be very clear. Lena and I are taking this slow. Not because she begged. Not because I need to win. But because we both want to find out what's real, without anyone whispering in her ear. She scoffed. You think she's doing this on her own? I didn't blink. I think she's finally starting to. Then she played her last card. Pulled out her phone. Opened a photo. Turned the screen to me. It was Lena. On the trip. With Marcus. But this wasn't the rooftop photo I'd seen before. This was later at night, softer lighting, her head resting on his shoulder. Eyes closed, his hand on her waist. Linda didn't speak at first, just let the silence settle around the image like fog. Then, she didn't know I took it. I wasn't trying to spy, I saw them and thought, if this goes badly, she'll need to remember what it looked like before it did. She looked down, but maybe I kept it because some part of me wanted proof. For her. Or for me. I don't know anymore. I stared at it, felt that old ache rise. But then, something happened. I didn't flinch. I didn't rage. I just felt tired. Not of Lena. Of Linda. Of her obsession with steering the ship from behind the curtain. Her belief that she knew best because she'd lived more life, made more mistakes, worn the white dress before. I looked up. Calm. Cold. You're not protecting her, I said. You're punishing her for choosing something that doesn't look like your idea of love. She said nothing. So I stepped forward, close enough to lower my voice. She told me you gave her permission to stray, that you encouraged her to test her feelings. But you weren't protecting her from me. You were protecting her from herself, from what it would mean to settle down with someone who didn't need fixing. That hit. She blinked. Once. Then I said something I didn't plan. She's stronger than you think. And I think that scares you. She didn't reply, just put her phone away and walked out without another word. Later that night, Lena showed up at my door. Not planned. Just there. She looked nervous. I think she's trying to break us, she said. I think she's scared of who I become when I'm not in her orbit. I nodded. Me too. We sat on the couch, lights off, just the glow of the hallway lamp bleeding into the room. She reached into her bag, pulled out a box. Not a ring box. A shoebox, old, taped at the corners, something she must have pulled from a closet or a crawl space. Inside were photos. Of her as a kid. Her mom. Her dad, who'd left when she was 10. She always said he was a flake, she murmured. Said I needed to guard my heart better than she did. But what she really meant was, don't love someone unless you can control them. She took out one photo, her, age 12, standing between her parents at some school event. The space between them wide. Unspoken. I think she's been trying to rewrite her own story through mine. We sat with that for a long time. And then she whispered something I'll never forget. I used to think choosing you meant giving up on something bigger. But now I see. You were the bigger thing all along. You just didn't yell about it. That cracked me open. Not because it was perfect. Because it was true. In truth, the kind that isn't wrapped in romance or apology, is what we'd been missing. She stayed that night. Not as a partner. Not as a fiancée. But as someone rebuilding. And in the quiet of that room, I felt something I hadn't in months. A flicker of hope that didn't need fireworks to be real. We didn't reschedule the wedding. Not because we were over. But because we weren't there, not yet. And rushing toward, I do, just to outrun what had happened felt like dressing a wound before it scabbed. Instead, we started over. Not from scratch. From where we really were. We took off our rings. Not as a rejection. As a recommitment to the work before the ceremony. We went to therapy. Together and alone. We unpacked the stories we'd been carrying. Hers about needing passion. Mine about needing control. Both shaped by ghosts we hadn't acknowledged. And through all of it, we did the hardest thing two people in love can do. We told the truth. One afternoon, about 6 weeks in, we went back to the venue. Not to book anything. Just to walk it. The grass had grown a little longer. The benches were still there, lined up like a promise. Lena stood at the top of the hill, where she once told me she wanted to say her vows. I stood beside her, hands in my pockets. She whispered, I pictured this place filled with light. Music. You in a suit. Me in that dress. But now, I waited. She turned to me. Now I just want to stand here and mean every word I say. Even if no one's watching. I smiled. That's the only kind of wedding I want. And that's when I realized something. Forgiveness isn't an event. It's a daily decision. And trust isn't rebuilt with grand gestures. It's rebuilt when someone shows up on the days they could have run, when no one would have blamed them. A month later, we had dinner with Lena's sister, Hannah. Just the three of us. No Linda. Lena hadn't spoken to her mother since the day she dropped off that photo. Linda had sent a few texts, vague apologies, half-formed regrets. But Lena didn't reply. I love her, she told me one night. But I'm not hers to manage anymore. And that's the thing. Love doesn't give anyone the right to rewrite your story. You get to choose how it's told. We didn't jump right back into forever. We started with mornings again. Breakfasts. Long walks. We let silence live between us without fear. And slowly, the air stopped feeling so thin. One morning, as we were folding laundry, just socks and soft music in the background, Lena held up one of my t-shirts. The one she used to sleep in before Miami. She pressed it to her face and laughed. A quiet, almost broken sound. Then she looked at me. "Do you still want to marry me?" I didn't answer right away. Not because I didn't know, but because I needed her to feel the weight of what I was about to say. "I want to build a life with you," I said. "But not because we used to be good. Because we're finally learning how to be honest. And if that road leads to marriage again, I'm ready." She nodded. Not tearfully. Not dramatically. Just a quiet, full-body yes. Like peace settling in. We haven't set a new date. We might. Or we might not. We're not in a rush. Because now, when she reaches for my hand, it's not with guilt or doubt. It's with presence. With clarity. And that's better than any ceremony. That's better than fireworks. Because real love doesn't explode. It glows. Quietly. Steadily. Like a porch light left on for someone who always finds their way home.